Welcome racers, this is Badgerman. You may notice this is a slightly different format of video, and if you clicked on the title and the thumbnail, you may have seen what we're going to do here. We are going to rank all 30 F1 Esports drivers based on what their chances are in the upcoming season that should start today and tomorrow with the first event. So, yeah. Let's get right into it. Let's go through all 10 teams. I have the tier list ready already, so let's get started. And here we are. And the way this is going to work, we are going to have 5 tiers. We're going to have title contenders. That's the sort of driver that you would think. I mean, the title is really saying exactly what it is. It's the title contenders. The people we would think they can win the title. And I want to be very picky here. I only want to pick a few. And I would say the ones that are sort of long shots but still somewhat title contenders, they might end up in the potential race winners category. Because I don't want to be like, oh, all 30 drivers can win the title, or all 20 drivers can win the title, or whatever. No. That's silly. We're going to have about 5 title contenders, maybe 4, maybe 6, somewhere in that area. Then the potential race winners, we're going to have about probably a bit more than that, maybe 5, 6, 7. Then we are going to have the drivers that could get podiums, potentially top 5, stuff like that, you know, roughly in that area, but not so much battling for wins. Maybe if they get really lucky. Then the drivers, I would expect to get a few points here and there, you know, maybe 1 race, 2 races, they get points. And then the drivers where it's really just thanks for coming. And I want to explain that very quickly as well. A couple disclaimers here. Only 1 driver from each team will be in the title contenders category, maximum. So if we look at Red Bull or Mercedes, I will not put Jarno Opmeer and Danny Moreno in the title contenders category. I will not put Frederick Rasmussen and Marcel Kiefer in the title contenders category. They might both be capable, but I want to give some kind of nuance here. Also, out of the 3 drivers, usually 1 draws the short end of the stick, meaning at least 1 driver out of every team is going to end up either in the a few points here and there category or thanks for coming. That's not an indictment of their lack of skill. If they made it to F1 Esports, they are all skilled. I don't think I'm telling you anything that you didn't know. All that means is that I don't think that these drivers will get a lot of opportunities. And we will get into that rather shortly. Let's actually get started with Alfa Romeo. We've got Philipp Preschneider, Thymen Schütte, and Simon Weigang. So let's actually get started with Preschneider. Pretty good driver, you know, pretty strong driver. However, I think he's going to be the one in this team that's going to see the least opportunities. Simon Weigang is an established name. Thymen Schütte is an up-and-comer. I feel like Preschneider is going to be the one who draws a bit of a short end of the stick. However, I think this is one of the teams with the most equitable distribution of races. Not necessarily 8 races a driver. Maybe Schütte and Weigang is probably going to get 10 or 11. Schütte is going to get 6 or 7, and that leaves about... Schütte gets about 8, and that leaves about 5 to 6 for Preschneider. So I'm putting Preschneider here. I think in those couple of races, he's going to get a few points. He's got the capabilities. Then we look at Schütte and Weigang, and I see them roughly on the same level. I think they're both very, very good. I do think they can both battle for podiums. I think we're going to put both of them together there. They can both battle for podiums. They both got that opportunity, and I think they both got a chance here. Let's move on to AlphaTauri. We got Dario Iamulo, Sebastian Job, and Johnny Tormala. Now let's start again in alphabetical order with Dario Iamulo. Again, Iamulo is going to be the one to draw the short end of the stick, but he is capable. He's going to get a couple of opportunities, and I think he will show his potential in those opportunities. Maybe 4 or 5 races that he'll get, hopefully, and he will show what he can do, and he will at least get a few points there. Sebastian Job, a name that's been around sim racing for years. Porsche Esports Super Cup. But that's not on F1. That's on rFactor. Yeah, it's a different game. It's a whole different ball game. Sure, it's all sim racing, but the platforms are so vastly different that I think it's going to be difficult for him to make the transition. I think he can fight for podiums. He's got the talent on other games to definitely be a title contender, but on F1, I just don't see it happening. Podiums, sure. And AlphaTauri is certainly going to be a good team this year. Johnny Tomala, he's been around for a while. He doesn't speak much, but from everything we've seen on social media and everything we've heard from the drivers, definitely someone who could be very funny and very entertaining. Would love to see him get into Twitch and YouTube a bit more. That would be really, really fun. But most importantly, he's here for F1 Esports. And I feel like this year, Joni Tomala came to play. I just don't quite see him as a title contender. I think there's just a tad bit that's lacking. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but man, he's got potential. He's got an opportunity at his hands right now, and I think Tomala is at the very least a potential race winner, maybe a title contender, but I'm putting him here right now for the time being. Alpine, Donoso Longue Sipos. Once again, the short end of the stick this time is going to go to Patrick Sipos, I think, because really, Donoso and Longue have seniority. They've been there for a while. They're part of the team. They're ingrained in the team. Sipos is the new one in the house, and he will not see many opportunities. That being said, I'm not very high on Fabrizio Donoso. He's living off of his second place in the first F1 Esports Championship, which at this point has been 4 years ago. He's living off of that right now. I just don't see the performance in him, so I'm going to put him down here. He can score points, but I just don't see a lot of ability in Fabrizio Donoso. Maybe he'll prove me wrong once again. I challenge all the drivers. If you think I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Do the talking on the track. But Donoso, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. Longue, on the other hand, very strong driver. And he's going into this season as strong as he's ever been. That being said, I want to keep the title contenders as narrow as possible. And I don't think Longue is in that absolute top category. I think, just like with Tomala, there's just a little bit missing. There's just a tiny bit that keeps him from that. But definitely a race winner. I would be surprised if Nicolas Longue, after the 12 races, has won 0 of them. I'd be incredibly surprised. I think he should take the top step of the podium at least once, and possibly a few more podiums in the making as well. But Longue certainly up there. Now we get to Aston Martin. Lucas Blakely, Shanika Clay, Daniela Haddad. The one to draw the short end of the stick here, I think, is Shanika Clay. Just like last season, they haven't changed at all. So I think I'll put him here into a few points here and there. He's got the potential. He's got the ability. It's just that Blakely and Haddad are just I feel like just a bit of ahead of him. And again, they both have seniority. They've both been in the team longer and are sort of ingrained in the team, so I think both of them will get a bit more time, a bit more races, and in fact, I think Lucas Blakely is going to get all 12 races, and yeah, if you've seen PSGL, if you've seen the world record hunts that he's done, if you've seen all of that Lucas Blakely has done, you can only put him in the title contenders category. In terms of outright pace, Lucas Blakely, I would argue, is the fastest driver on this grid right now. However, he needs his luck to come back. And if we've seen anything in PSGL, luck is not on his side whatsoever. So he needs that to come back. Maybe, I don't know, working with his engineer in Aston Martin, if he has one. I would assume he has one. Work with him to make the right calls during the race. And hopefully he can get this luck going again. Because with all the drivers being as close as they are, you need a stroke of luck here and there to actually win the title. But a contender, he certainly is. Daniela Haddad, strong driver. Just don't see him quite as someone who can win a race, but I can definitely see him on a podium. I think a third place, maybe even a second place here and there. Definitely a possibility. Certainly he'll be close, but he's not Lucas Blakely, but I think he's quite strong. If all 3 drivers raced in every race, I'd put Haddad and Clay roughly on the same level. But because I think Haddad is going to get a couple more races than Clay, Clay's a bit further down here. Now we go to Ferrari. And Ferrari, of course, have a star-studded lineup. 2-time Brendan Lee, the 2-time F1 Esports World Champion. David Tunizza, the 1-time F1 Esports World Champion. And, of course, Domenico Lovecce, who's also there. And I think that's exactly his role. I mean, if you're in a team with Brendan Lee and David Tunizza, he'll get 1 or 2 races. thanks for coming. Lovece is someone who is incredibly talented, incredibly quick, but he just won't get the opportunities. And it's really unfortunate because I think he deserves that. But at the end of the day, it's really just thanks for coming and congratulations on calling yourself an F1 Esports driver now, but you won't see many races. Unfortunately, Brendan Lee, he's been practicing so much. If you follow his social media, if you watch his streams, he's just constantly practicing. He's just constantly on it. He's getting more and more into shape. He's doing runs, many kilometers, and he's trying to be in the best shape he can be mentally, physically, in terms of experience. It's just, your teammate is David Tunidza. Who of those two is Ferrari going to focus on to try and push to the title? I don't think they'll give any driver the nod, and that's why I'm going to have to put both of them in the potential race winners category. One of them could elevate up into the title contenders over the course of the season, but as things stand now, they're both at the very least potential race winners, but as I said, I want to keep the title contenders very narrow, and so they're both here, but they could both move up. Whichever driver is going to be the one to score more points in, I would say, the first two events, is going to be the driver to move potentially into title contenders. But right now, I'm going to have to keep both of them down there. Haas, meanwhile, with Samuel Libert, Cedric Tomé, and Matthijs van Erven. Interesting lineup for sure. I think Libert is going to be the one to not see much time here, so I think for him it's really just thanks for coming. And I feel like, absolutely no offense to the drivers. Cedric Tomé, you know, strong driver, pretty nice guy as well. Matthijs van Erven commentated over him in PSGL back in the day on PlayStation. Very good drivers, both of them, absolutely. Just, I'm a bit worried because Haas, just like in real F1, they've not been doing the greatest in F1 Esports. So I feel like it's more of a team thing than it is a driver thing. I think both of them will get points here and there. I just don't think they can challenge for podiums. Maybe sort of P6, P7, P8 they can get consistently. Just don't see them break into that echelon right there. Haas, overall, I would say one of the worst teams on the grid, just like in real F1. McLaren. Look at that lineup. Danny Berezne, Barry Burrowman, and Josh Idawu. Talk about a heck of a lineup. And for this one, I'm going to break with what I said earlier. Only for this team, I'm going to break with what I said earlier. This is the only time I will break with this. I will put all three drivers at the very least in the could get podiums category. Danny Berezne, he's a title contender. Straight up. There's no question about it. Danny Berezne has been consistently there. He's been consistently in the hunt over the last couple of years. The one thing that just for some reason eludes him over and over is that title. And he's more determined than ever. He wants that thing, and I think this year he's gonna make a run for it. Whether he will be able to do it, I don't know, but he will certainly give it a good try. Barry Burrowman and Josh Idawu. I don't know who McLaren are gonna use as a second driver. I think what they're gonna do is Berezne is gonna do all 12 races, and Burrowman and Idawu are gonna split 6 each, and they could both get podiums in those 6 races. If that's what happens, they both absolutely could get podium. They're both capable of that. If Idawu gets the nod over Burrowman, then obviously Burrowman would move down. But as things stand now, I think they're going to split evenly, 6-6, maybe 7-5. Certainly enough time for both of them to get podiums. Mercedes, Bono Ruiz, Danny Moreno, Jarno Opmeer. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Let's just get this out of the way. Obviously, the reigning defending F1 Esports World Champion is a title contender. No surprise there, I would say. I also said earlier that I will not put both drivers from one, or two drivers from one team into the title contender range. Therefore, Danny Moreno quite easily makes it into the potential race winners category. And finally, we have Bono Ruiz. And with those two teammates, I'm sorry, Bono. It's thanks for coming. He will, again, it's not that I think he's bad. He will just not get any opportunities, I think. Maybe he will have 1 or 2 races. There have been cases where drivers actually get 0 races. Before, last season, 3 drivers got 0 races despite being F1 Esports drivers. So it might be the case for those that are down here that they will actually get 0 races. Now Red Bull. Masa Akifa, Liam Parnell, Freddie Rasmussen. The big question is, which one of these am I going to put in the title contender category? Because we know it's either going to be Akifa or Rasmussen. My pick, title contender for Red Bull, is Freddie Rasmussen. Masa Akifa just as well. Both are capable. Both are incredibly quick. Both have the pace. But I feel like when push comes to shove, as good as they both are, Freddie Rasmussen just has that killer instinct. He's just got something that Masa Akifa, I don't want to say Masa Akifa lacks, but Masa Akifa is just a different kind of person. Freddie Rasmussen, very stoic, doesn't really talk much, sort of almost Kimi-esque, except he doesn't get as angry either. But very stoic and just very focused on the task at hand. Masa Akifa can also be very focused. I don't want to say that he's not, but I don't know. It's just, we have to choose one, really, at the end of the day. And for me, that's Freddie Rasmussen, but Masa Akifa, at the very least, a potential race winner. Sort of the same situation as with Mercedes, except that they will focus on Rasmussen, not because he's the reigning defending champion like Opme is, but because he got very close on many occasions. And Freddie Rasmussen, I think, will give it a good go once more. That leaves Liam Parnell, the setup guru of Red Bull Racing, and I think he will be used mostly for that setups. He will not race much, unfortunately. He's a fantastic person. I've been interacting with him as one of the commentators for the Racing Liga Global that he organized, and just a very enjoyable person to work with, and I think he will bring a lot of good atmosphere to Red Bull as a team. Not that they needed that, but it certainly helps to not have someone who disrupts, but someone who fits in, and that's Liam Parnell. And add to it with just amazing setups. Like his setups, Rasmussen and Kifa, they're going to be both just remarkably strong. And this might be what Red Bull needed, but unfortunately, Liam Parnell will also not race very much, maybe 1 or 2 races. It's a thanks for coming. And finally, the last team is Williams, and Williams have Alvaro Carreton, Alessio Di Capua, and Michael Romanidis. Now, this is a tricky one. I need to put someone a little bit lower, and I feel like Williams also have a lineup that's not as strong as most others. Stronger than Haas for sure, but not as strong. I think Carreton could potentially win a race. I'm pretty sure he's likely to get some podiums for sure. He could get a podium or 2. Just don't quite see the race victory there. Don't forget, there's only 12 race victories on offer. And I've put 10 people into the title contender / potential race winner category. So there's going to be a lot of splitting going on. Podiums, there are 36 on offer. But obviously, we will see some of those names here in the top 10, if you will. In the top 2 tiers rotate through. But Carreton, certainly podiums possible for him. He's certainly a driver to look out for. But I feel like he's a bit too aggressive at times, and that will cost him, especially with the new damage on the game, that you can actually get damage to the side pod, to the barge boards, all the areas that were previously protected because it was only wing and tires that could get damaged, front wing and tires that could get damaged. Now you've got the side pod to worry about, and I feel like Alvaro Carreton used to be a bit too aggressive and still is a bit too aggressive for the damage model that we have now. So that's going to be the struggle that he's facing. And then finally, Alessio Di Capua and Michael Romanidis. I think once again, they're going to sort of split 6-6. It's just that they're not on the same level as Boromand and Idawu for McLaren. I put them one below, put them both in the few points here in their category, and they end up being right there. So Di Capua and Romanidis, both in the few points here and there. I think they'll do well, Here's the thing, if you score points in F1 Esports, that's already pretty good. Like, you're one of the best 20, 25, 30 drivers in the world at that point. So that's nothing to scoff at. Just because I put you here in the few points here in that category, or even in the thanks for coming category, it's not because I think you're bad. It's because I think you won't get opportunities, or you won't get enough opportunities to show how good you really are. So that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, who you think is going to win the title, who you think I misplaced the most, and whether you think this is a fair tier list or not. Let me know. And if you're an F1 Esports driver, please do not take offense at this. I'm trying to show people that might not have followed F1 Esports in the past, give them a bit of an orientation. And yeah, that concludes the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me actually come back onto the screen. There we are. So what do you guys think? Who's going to win F1 Esports? Who's going to win the first race at Bahrain today, if you're watching this when it goes live? Who's going to win the whole championship? And which team? Because that's where the money is made. The money is distributed based on the team performance, based on who becomes the Constructors Champion. Which team do you think is the strongest and will win the Constructors title? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel for more F1 Esports and F1 game content. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.